So after the cracking is complete, then the process is some sorting and screening prior to basically blending or grinding the acorns up into smaller particle size. I don't do any sorting whatsoever prior to cracking. I don't do any float tests or pick out the ones with holes. I don't really do any of that stuff. So what I do is after cracking, I will basically run that material through a 1/4 inch screen and classify it and dump anything that's less than 1/4 of an inch. Usually it's small fines, testa, small pieces of shells, and that's just a lot easier than picking those little bits out, piece by piece. And there's virtually no nut meats in that material that's less than 1/4 inch, so that works pretty well. And then once that's done, I will basically take the rest of the material, put it in a bucket, fill that bucket with water, and use a screen to basically sift out a lot of the shells, because the shells will, for the large part, float. It doesn't get all that stuff out of there, but a lot of it, probably 90% of it, will float, and you can scoop it out with a screen. It's very efficient and quick compared to hand sorting all that stuff, especially when you're doing bulk batches or 10-pound batches, whatever. But I'll show you what that stuff looks like in that process. Yeah. So first thing I want to show you is this screening that I do. So after cracking, I'll run them through this 1/4 inch classifying screen. This is just some hardware cloth that I basically stapled to some wood, and I'll run the material through there, and anything less than 1/4 inch, which is the grid on the screen, ends up in this pan, which is this material, and it's basically all testa and small pieces of shell. There's virtually no nut meat in there. That's exactly how it came out of there. So that can just be discarded, and that saves me from picking those millions of little pieces out of the material I have left. So that's a great thing to do. After that's done, I'll take all the nut meats and put them in the bucket and fill it up with water, and that's what you see here. And actually most of the nuts and shells are still down in the bottom of this bucket. I haven't done any stirring, but just filling it with water, you can see a lot of these shells have floated up. I haven't had to do anything. And then I like to take this sort of a screen scoop with a handle on it, and I can just go in here and scoop a lot of that material out. That's 100% shells, and chuck it somewhere else. And once you get that material off of there, you'll see the rest of it's down on the bottom, and all you have to do is kind of stir up this pile, and a lot of these shells will become freed up and they float at the surface, and you can just scoop that stuff out of there. So by doing that, you can get 90% of the shells separated from the nut meat, which is great. And there is a slight difference between the red oaks and the white oaks. I think the red oaks actually separate the shells even better than the white oaks, but both of them are pretty good. And once I've got most of that material separated from the shells, I will go through and basically hand sort the remaining material and I'll remove any remaining discolored nut meats, weird looking stuff with holes in them from worms and stuff like that, to do a final sort through on there and discard any small pieces of shells and anything else that didn't sort out there. And once that's done, it's pretty much onto the grinding or blending process, which is going to be the next video.